a lifelong tale, through days and months and years, as long as time prevails. From thoughts and words and actions, life's tapestry is woven into patterns so very intricate, with artistry unbroken. Such an adventurous journey to places far and near, up toward shining galaxies, to inward visions clear. From tops of highest mountains to depths of endless seas, so many forms from Maya's touch, parts of her ever-changing dream. Until you wake me from this dream, please be in this dream with me. Mother, father, child, friend, my dearest beloved, there are heroes and villains, there are sages and saints, there are singers and lovers, and there are artists with paints, there are parents and children, and very powerful kings. There are rich men and poor men who are beggars of many things. There are Bengal tigers and king cobras, grand elephants, such great oceans and fishes with deep secret haunts. There are mountains and valleys and great flying birds, storm clouds and rainbows, and so many sounds to be heard. There is laughter and there are tears, there is hope and there are fears, there is courage and there is strength and there is sorrow. There are songs to be sung and so much work to be done, and prayers to be said for today and tomorrow. There is night and then there's day, as time keeps on slipping away, affecting both the old and young in this whole world spinning. There is shyness and boldness, and warmth and coldness, and unending compassion for all under the sun. Chapters in a life build up to a lifelong tale, through days and months and years, as long as time prevails. From thoughts and words and actions, life's tapestry is woven into patterns so very intricate, with artistry unbroken. Such an adventurous journey to places far and
Good morning. Okay, today everyone knows what this is about. We've all sung this nursery rhyme when we were small. Merrily, 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 gently down the stream. I bet you could all still sing it in rounds, because that's how we learned it. But to me, when I looked back over it, I looked and I thought, no, this is really kind of a map for life. Because how does it start? Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Okay, what is row, row, row your boat? Well, when I apply it to Vedanta, it is the self-effort that is necessary to achieve a goal. Now, we're presupposing that the main purpose of life, as Ramakrishna said, was to realize God, to realize our own divinity, to become one with the cosmic consciousness, to become one with divinity. So we say, row, row, row your boat. Now, we've always had this debate of self-effort and grace. Which one do we need to achieve our goals? We need both. As we've read in the Gospel over and over, the Gospel of Ramakrishna over and over again, you have to set your sail. The breeze of grace is always blowing, but you have to set the sail. It's very much like living in Santa Barbara, where we have a threat of fire whenever the hot winds blow. Now, we don't anticipate, we don't expect, hopefully. What we do is we do our due diligence. We do what we know is necessary, and then leave the rest to God. We do our brush clearing, we do our cleaning up, we do all of that. But then we have to surrender and know that we're not in charge. There's another joke that Swami Swahananda always told when he was talking about grace and self-effort. This man was praying, please, Lord, let me win the lottery. Please, I need to win the lottery. Please, please, when are you going to answer my prayers? And the voice came, buy a ticket. That's our due diligence. That's our self-effort. We have to do something. We can't sit and casually wait. I mean, you can try it, but it's not going to get you very far. As one of our other nuns always said, if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. So we row our boat, and we set that sail. We make the effort to go in a direction that we want to go, which in our tradition is to realize God. Of course, that's in every tradition. When you stop and read what the scriptures say, Jesus always said, I and my Father are one. And you can do this too. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. These are all promises that if we do our part, the grace will flow. Now, what do they mean, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream? I mean, most of us tend to be raised in the Western tradition of overachievement. So when we go row, row, row your boat, we're going to win. We're going to get there. But when they say gently down the stream, yes, we start with self-effort, but it's not to the point of taking Well, it is. It's making an effort to lose our bad habits. And we make a strong, strong effort to lose the bad habits, to replace them with the positive. Get rid of our negativity, replace it with positivity. As that becomes more intrinsic in our nature and we make it a practice daily, then we can row gently down the stream. We don't have to be trying to win the race, because we're not in a race. The only person we're racing with is ourselves. There is no race in spiritual life. The only person you have control of, and the only person that we can change, is ourself. So if we try to form good habits, positive habits, and as I say, get rid of the negativity, always expecting something terrible to happen. Instead, greet the world as if it were your friend, and everyone in it is already your friend, and you'll find that for the most part they are. We tend to judge so much on externals instead of trying to see the God within each person. So it makes it difficult for us not to be afraid of differences. When we're afraid of differences, we act negatively. We react in a negative manner. Think about a baby. A baby doesn't have fear until it is taught it. A baby looks at everyone and they smile and they're happy to see anyone and everyone. When they encounter the world and they're taught to be afraid, then behavior changes. But we can unlearn what we have been taught. We can make an effort to recognize those thoughts as they come up and substitute a positive thought. That's basically how we would change our nature and our character. We think that we recognize the fact that our inner being is divine. We are not separate from God. We are one with God. But in the same token, everyone else is too. So everyone else that you meet and see is part of you. And if we can consciously make it into a practice that we want to incorporate in our lives, then the whole world changes, and it really does. Now the other thing, okay, we're going gently down the stream. We're not trying to beat the rapids. Hopefully, have any of you gone fly fishing? Fly fishing is a very concentrated sport. You have to have your mind on it all the time, and you can't move around too much. So you have to flick and wait, flick and wait. It's recognizing the action in the inaction. There's a story of Swami Brahmananda that he told. He used to like to go fishing. Now, why would he want to go fishing? Because people would not wonder what he was doing. He could sit and become one with nature and meditation, holding his line, having a part of his mind on when that was touched by a fish and reacting. But for the most part, his mind could be on the infinite. There was a story in the gospel about a fisherman who's deeply involved in fishing, and a man comes by and he says, how do I get to Calcutta? How do I get to Calcutta? Why won't you answer me? Why are you just sitting there? And the fisherman didn't react, just sat there with his eyes on his line. And the man, oh, you're worth nothing, and strode off. The fisherman caught his fish, and then he ran after the man, and he said, now what were you asking me? I was fishing. So we have to learn how to concentrate like that. Put our concentration on what our goals are. And I know it's really hard because so much of our behavior is automatic. It's what we have always done, what we did as a child, what worked for us as we were growing up. And sometimes it doesn't work after a while. It's just not productive, and you keep getting the wrong response and blaming outside forces, whatever they may be. It was the weather, it was that person, they were in a bad mood. But we tend to, when things don't go as we expect them or as we anticipated, we tend to blame the externals rather than accepting it for it was just that's the way it was. Because that's the other problem that we have is expectations and anticipation. Life will never be easy if you live expecting it to go a certain way. Expectations are what some people would call projections into the future. We expect this to happen. When I say hello to someone, I expect them to say hello back, whether they're busy or not. And if they don't say hello, let's take it very personally. They're mad at me. They don't like me. And we're just beating ourselves up. This is not going gently down the stream. Living with expectation, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, the past is over. The present is now. The future has not happened. That's why they call the present a gift. This is the only place we can live right now, is right here in the present. I know we can be planning what we're going to be doing next because this is getting a little tiresome, but that's what we do. We immediately detach ourselves. Our mind takes us to another place. It's not right here, right now. But you made the effort to get here. So, okay. Now, if we go on to the part where merrily, 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 when does that happen? I mean, when do I start making all this? When do I start changing all of my negative habits? And when do I start stop working on myself and start enjoying life? Guess what? It just happens. And it's not with a great big celebration or a great big bang all of a sudden. It's not like knee surgery where all of a sudden the pain's over. It's not like that at all. It's so gradual, you don't realize that all of a sudden you're happy most of the time. That life is not a problem. That you're not anxious about things, that you're not worried about what's going to happen next. And why aren't you? Because you have developed a certain acceptance of the way things are. They're not personally against you. They're not for you. They just are. And therefore, you don't have to fight anymore. You don't have to rush and cling and grab and run away from. As soon as you can have that kind of acceptance of this is what happened. And it's not, seriously, we're not the center of the universe. We are simply a part of it. And when we accept that fact that we and everyone else in this room is a manifestation of God and part of us, what do we have to worry about? What do we have to expect? What do we have to react to? All we can do is just greet people, see them as they are today. Okay, and then at that point, when we can have that kind of degree of separation or detachment, and when I say detachment, I don't mean indifference. Detachment is you see things, but you have a little space between you and the event. You have a space where you can see it outside yourself, be there with it, but not you become a person who can act rather than react. A person who reacts has no space between an event and a thought. They simply go into autopilot. And sometimes that's very necessary. To save your life, that's necessary. But for daily living, you're not saving your life every minute. So take some time, think about, even just a nanosecond, to just say, okay, that's happening, but that I don't have to react to it. I can make a choice. At that point, life becomes enjoyable. It really and truly does. Everyone who has gone there says yes. Then you can enjoy what's going on in the world, what's going on in your life. Yeah, there'll be things that aren't that pleasant, but for the most part, and I don't recommend going back over your past completely all the time. I think that's a waste of time because it's gone and it won't happen again. It's gone. But to take a perusal and look back over your life and see how many things you thought were going to happen that didn't. There was a book written in the 40s, I think, by Norman Vincent Peale that says, stop worrying and start living. 90% of what we worry about doesn't happen. It really doesn't, but we use up our nerves, our nervous system, our personality, everything worrying about, what if this happens, what if this happens, what am I going to do? How can I take care of it? Now, I mean, we had an incident of when the grace of God happened, and this is harking back to the fire that happened. We were 5 people here with 5 animals, and suddenly they came in the middle of the night and said, you have to evacuate. Well, okay, but you know how that was. I mean, those of you who've been through this. But we had a friend who that very afternoon before she left for Laguna said, here's the keys to my house in case you have to evacuate. Now, I mean, we went, oh, no, we're fine. We weren't fine, and we ended up in our house for 11 days, but that's not from any effort that we made. That was the grace of God coming. And we've all had incidences in our life when we can look back and think, whoa, I should have been in much more trouble than I was. We're all sitting here today. We're all in one piece, as far as I can see. And some of us are very old, and we've made it to this point through things that when we were very young we shouldn't have made it through, but we're still here. So we have no idea how much grace we have. We have no idea until we start looking. And that's when life becomes merrily, merrily, merrily. Now, as soon as we realize, once we have what that has been called in spiritual, sometimes by some spiritual people, is standing at the door of realization. You haven't had realization of God or the realization of oneness, but you know it, and you know it's possible, and you know it is imminent. It is going to happen, and all your doubts and all your lack of faith is gone. At that point, that's when life becomes, as Ramakrishna said, it can then be a mansion of mirth. Because you have that absolute and complete faith. Your doubts have ceased. You may not have seen God or realized God yet, but it can come in an instant, or it can come in phases. There's no one way anyone's spiritual life happens. It's an individual thing for every person. But when you get that sureness, and we call it surrender, because at that point you have surrendered your ego. You're no longer in charge. You have actually said there's something higher than yourself that is in charge of this universe. At that point, life is good. You can be happy even through disasters. Now, I don't mean giggly funny. I mean, you can know that this too will pass. It's not forever. And then when you do have the God realization, that's when life becomes a dream, which we say you have removed the veil of ignorance, removed the veil of Maya, and you can see, you can know the truth. And this is what Vedanta and all religions are going for. Every religion, every person in this world is basically going for freedom, for self-realization, but we identify ourselves as the ego. And the ego is really messed up. It truly is. It is extremely selfish, extremely self-centered, wants its way. And we have to get rid of that identification with our tiny ego and identify with the self, with a big capital S, the real self. As I say, this is going to be a really short lecture. You're going to be out pretty soon. Now, row, row, row your boat was always sung in my grade school in rounds. I don't know how yours was. I don't even know if they're teaching it anymore. But it was, first of all, it was teaching us how to concentrate, because we all had to, oh my God, they're singing what I just sang, and I have to keep on my words. Okay, so finally we got up to like 3 groups of row, row, row your boat, and we're all, row, row, row your boat, gently down the street, and we're really concentrating. But this is very much like Maya. We're all at different places in the song. Every single person is at a different place in their in their version of the song. So we can't expect everyone to be exactly the same as us. We're all at different phases. We may be at Merrily, 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 or we may be at the very beginning, row, row, row your boat. This is when we can surrender to that also, that no one is absolutely perfect, but they're all doing the best they can. And they're all working hard on where they are. So, I was almost going to make you all sing Row, Row, Row Your Boat in rounds. but then I thought, I can't start it, so I'm not sure I can make you do that. But you can imagine it in your mind and go back to when you were about 7 and learning it. And yes, it was very, very difficult to keep on your own part, right? That's another thing that happens in our lives, is we see someone else and we think, I should be doing that. No. You do what's true to you and where you are. This is part of, when we say unity and diversity, we mean that everyone can be where they are doing what they need to do, and we are still one. Not everyone has to do the same thing at the same time. As Swamiji said, that would be an entirely boring world. What if we were all exactly the same? Dreadful. It's the differences that make life interesting. So, I actually hope that you are all rowing your boat and doing what you need to do to reach the goal of God realization. If you don't want to believe in God, then call it becoming one with the cosmic consciousness. You can call it whatever it is, but it is one existence, one truth, one. It is oneness, which we are all part of and different manifestations of. In the gospel, they've given a multitude of examples of that. Icebergs in the sea, all the same water. This is, all of these things that seem to be different are not. We're all human beings. We're reading more and more about the oneness of all of existence. Animals are becoming part of our society, you could say, when you see some things. They help each other. I was saying the other day, it looks like, because we're getting all these things, that animals of different species can be kind to each other, and man is all one species, and we find it difficult to be kind to each other. Now, if they can be kind cross-species, why can't we be kind in species? And I think we can, but we have to row that boat and change our negative thoughts into positive ones. Make that a habit. And it is difficult, but everyone can do it. We can all do it. Harder when we get older. Really hard to change habits. Not impossible. You can teach an old dog new tricks. And reach that point where you have surrendered our desire to control the world as our world. If we can actually give up that need of control life will treat us quite kindly in most cases. Because if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's just that way. I will go one step further. It's karma, which we all know. So by changing our negativity into positivity, we are changing our karma also and getting it in better shape if you believe in the next life. Now, row, row, row your boat, to me, is another example of the wheel of Dharma. You start, you go through it, you start over again, you start over again, you start over again, until you get off. And the way to get off that is the realization of your oneness. And I'll stop there.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces, people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies crying, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll never know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Favorite song. When we can get to that phase, when we can see that life is beautiful, the world is wonderful, no matter what's going on. You know that that song was written during the height of the Vietnam War and became Louis Armstrong's signature song. The height of one of the, terrible devastation. But to be able to see both exist, but you can enjoy the beauty of the world. It's where you put your mind and where you put your concentration. If you put your mind and concentration on God, then it's a beautiful world. Now, next week's topic is Fake It Till You Make It by Swami Medananda. So, all of these things are Vedanta. We'll have a reading of Swami Ramakrishnananda, Apostle to the South, on Wednesday at 5 o'clock here in the temple. And we'll have a gospel reading, Sri Ramakrishna, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, at 5 o'clock on Saturday here in the temple. And I have to thank everyone who came to our Karma Yoga Day yesterday. It was extremely successful, and we're hoping to have another, I'm doing a sales pitch. We're hoping to have another one in 2 or 3 weeks before Durga Puja. And everyone is welcome to come and work for lunch. Or work just to work. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat, Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.